Happy evening to all our viewers from Facebook and YouTube. So, sorry for the technical difficulties we've experienced kasi pilot episode ito, no? So, welcome to our show where we gather virtually with our favorite architects and our favorite drinks, no? I am your host for tonight, Gerard Lico. I'm a professor of architecture and an art historian. Join me as we talk about fun, drinks, and our favorite topic, architecture. This is the United Architects of the Philippines Makati chapter, ARQUIVIVO Happy Hour. So we are now open. As mentioned earlier, hindi kumpleto ang happy hour kung walang inumin. So let me share with you what I'm drinking right now. I have here, no, Black Russian, no. It's a mix of vodka and coffee. So medyo ano siya, no, medyo matamis. No? So if you know someone who deserves a good time and a good drink this Saturday evening, mention them in the comment section. No? Also remember to comment your favorite drink for a chance to win a power bank, no? And like and share this video for a chance to win a wearable air purifier. And before we proceed to tonight's talking point, allow me to introduce our kakwentuhan for tonight. She is UAP Makati's current chapter vice president for operations and has been with the chapter since 2018. She's been a practicing architect since 2015, but on a personal note, no, mahilig siya sa Broadway musical, no, and Japanese cuisine. Joining me in the virtual stage is our guest, Board of Director, Architect, Raya Angelica Samudio.
All right. Hello. Good evening, Gerard. And good evening po to everyone. So, ayan, magandang gabi po ulit sa lahat. So, medyo nagkaroon lang po ng technical difficulties earlier, but na-resolve na naman siya. So, again, I'm very honored to be joining you, sir, in the virtual stage. And I'm also very excited for tonight's happy hour. Ayan, masaya po yan, di ba, sir?
So, since sinabi mong happy hour, ano ba yung iniinom mo ngayon?
Ayan, tama, sir. So, what I have with me right now is this cool drink of sangria. So, what it is it's a mix of red wine and orange juice. So, healthy po to, sir. It's a healthy drink.
Wow. Alam ko matamis yan. So, cheers muna tayo.
Sige, cheers, sir. Yeah.
So, I think, no, aside from your drink, meron ka pang mga sasabihin sa ating audience, no, tonight, no? Especially
yes,
yung mga updates, no, and news.
Ayan. So, napaka-importante po niyan. So, tonight, I'll be sharing a few important events that everyone should look forward to, as well as some announcements. So, these are the latest news in the now. All right, so first up, be a member of good standing by settling your annual dues for fiscal year 2021 to 2022 on or before the deadline, September 30, 2021. So napakalapit na po niyan. To avoid any penalties, let's settle it. We have just 12 days to go. Ayan. So, please see further details flashed on your screens. So, makikita nyo po dyan yung bank accounts ng UAP National and also the UAP Makati chapter. Ayan. Also, as a side note, September 30 is also the deadline for the Philippine Voters Registration. So, if you haven't done so already, do get registered and make your vote count by 2022. Hashtag magparehistro ka. Ayan, so that's very important po. Up next, UAP National has launched a new online system which will now allow you to download and print your own IAPO certificates within the comforts of your own home. So you just need to follow a few easy steps. Ayan. No need to visit the UAP headquarters for your IAPOA. all you have to do is activate your UAP account via the UAP website and download your IAPO there. For more updates, please like and follow the UAP Certs Facebook page. All right, so also don't miss our next GMM in October, featuring our special guest speakers and chapter members, Architect Dominic Galicia, with his talk on his recent projects. So that's called Realm of Abstraction. Abangan po natin yan. And last month, we invited Architect Jello Manyosa as one of our moderators, but this time, he's gonna be one of our speakers. So he's gonna be talking about the best practices in Philippine island development. Yeah, and very exciting. And finally, please do support our CSR collaboration with WWF Philippines. Support the lives of those who support ours. It's time to pay it forward. And of course, I'm talking about our local farmers and fishermen. Let's help secure their most basic needs and protect the well-being of our local communities by going to this link on your screen that leads to our donation page. There, right there. Okay, and that's it for our updates and announcements in the now. For any questions, you may reach us through our Facebook page at the United Architects of the Philippines Makati chapter. Ayan, so I also want to take this time to give a big thank you to our generous sponsors, Davies Paints, Koisen, and Sika Philippines. And remember to comment your favorite drink below for a chance to win a power bank. And likewise, like and share this video for a chance to win a wearable air purifier. Okay, so back to you, Sir Gerard.
Thank you very much, Raya. So before we go to our main event at malasing tayo dito, let's have a short break. We'll be right back. And we're back. We're still live here at ARQUIVIVO Happy Hour. I am Jerry Rico, your host for tonight, and with me is our BDO. BOD, no? Lalasing na ako, no?
Bank pala po,
BOD
sir.
Kakwentuhan, Ryan Samudio.
Alright. Yes po, sir. We are now approaching our main event. Malapit na po. Kaya hindi ko na po patatagalin pa. Allow me to introduce not one, but two of our guest kakwentuhan for tonight. Alright. So our first guest for tonight is... Alright. Our first guest for tonight is the CEO of Manyosa and Company and managing partner of A. Manyosa and Architects. He is also a founding member of the Philippine Green Building Council and a proud member of the United Architects of the Philippines Makati chapter. He is also the youngest son of Architect Francisco Bobby Manyosa And nakasama na rin po natin siya last month in our recently concluded induction ceremony. And we have another guest po, Sir Gerard.
Our second guest is the eldest, no, and only daughter of national artist Bobby Manyosa. She is the president of the Museo Pambata. Ito yung museum dyan sa Meloneta na devoted sa mga kabataan, no? And she is also a member of the Tukod Foundation of the Manyosa Group, no, na nag-advocate ng empowerment ng mga kabataan to design and arts.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a virtual round of applause to our lovely guests for tonight.
Architect Miguel Angelo S. Manyosa and Miss Bambi Manyosa Tanhutko.
Ayan. Welcome po, Sir Jello and Miss Bambi.
Welcome. Ano yung mga iniinom natin ngayon, Jello and Miss Bambi?
For my drinking. For me, gin tonic.
Wow.
Ayan.
Yeah.
I'm taking
how about
vodka.
you po?
I'm taking Canto vodka.
O Canto, no? So, the local brand of vodka. Huh?
Yes, if I can show it to you, I love it. It's
Wow.
new. It's new
Ano
for
flavor
me.
niyan?
Popcorn.
So cheers muna tayo before
Ayan.
we go into our discussion to allow us for free-flowing discussion. Cheers!
Cheers, cheers, cheers.
Cheers. All right.
Okay.
So to start off, siguro po we can start with Jello. Can you tell us a little bit something about Manyosa and Company?
Manyosa and Company. Okay. So Manyosa, way back, when I say way back, starting with the Manyosa brothers time, when the Manyosa brothers split up, my father put up a firm called Francisco Manyosa and Partners. It was a partnership, kind of a setup. And then in 2004, we decided to professionalize, and then we incorporated into a corporation. So we then became, from Francisco Manyosa and Partners, we turned into Manyosa and Company. And it's my father's company. We've been running it. I personally have been running it since 2008 till now. Yeah, still going strong, I guess.
Alright,
So,
it's been
Miss-
around 13 years po, no?
No,
Kasi Miss
if you
Bambi.
count from the beginning, the Manyosa and Company has been around close to 48 years, if I'm not mistaken.
48.
So almost half a century, no?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So turning to Miss Bambi, no? Miss Bambi, tell us about the Museo Pambata and the advocacy of Tukod Foundation.
Okay. Well, so Gerard, as you know, I was with Manyosa and Company for a while. In 2017, they asked me to join Museo Pambata to be the president. I had to ask my dad if it was all right for me to step down for a while. So I thought I would take a leave only for a bit, but I got caught by the pandemic. So I had to sort of stay on a little longer just to transcend to the better normal, no, for kids. So it's a challenge, but very exciting. I guess at a time like this, when no kids are allowed inside, it's already 27 years, Museo Pambata, and we are now renovating the spaces slowly. So luckily in 2019, the Tukod Foundation donated a playground to Museo, and Jello was able to redesign it to make it space specific to the area. It was actually a design inspiration taken from my dad, like in 82, I think, Jel, if I'm not mistaken. He did this thing called Bahay Pukyutan. So we have it there. So Tukod is also continuing with some projects. We are launching a new book for my dad, his biography, coming out on October 24.
Okay, I know, excited tayong lahat, kaya wag na nating patagalin pa. Let's get into our talking point. So, this part of our show is that we will show you pictures related to the life and times of your father, and we will try to, through this picture, through these images, we will try to tell his story.
Yes
Okay,
po.
are we ready? Asan na ating mga visuals?
Yes, and just one side note po, these pictures are courtesy of the Tukod Foundation.
Yes, good, right. So, of course, titignan natin yung yung origin, origin story ni Bobby. So kasi Bobby is and creative, and at the same time he's a technical person. So sa tingin ko, it's a merger of two traits of the parents. So
everyone's wondering now, who's that woman?
Who's that?
Who's
Is that
woman,
beautiful woman?
Who's that
wearing
beautiful
a
woman?
palayok? Bambi can explain who that woman is.
Okay, this is my grandmother. This is Maria Tronqued Manyosa. My lola, we used to call her Bita, short for Abuelita. So my lola, believe it or not, was actually a Philippine actress. She was of the silent movie back then. So my grandmother comes from a very creative family. In fact, I didn't realize how right-brained they all were until I attended a Tronqued reunion some years back, and I saw actually we're related pala to the Paredeses. So sina Jim Paredes. So it's a bunch of creative individuals, writers, actors, singers, musicians, all kinds. So it's really fun. So I believe my dad got that very creative, crazy, fun-loving, Kenkoy side from the Tronqueds. Yeah.
So this grandmother of ours supposedly was one of the first actresses in the Philippines.
Correct. No, so she was a very popular actress, but she was discovered in an intermission number. She was part of a group, the Tronqued Sisters. So talagang maswela ang background ni Maria Tronqued. So she is also a pioneer simply because ang first movie niya is Nena the Boxer, Nena Boxeadora, which was shown in 1916. So dinismantle niya yung gender, yung gender role. So talaga siya, So in a way, path breaking, Path breaking si Maria Tronqued. So sige, let's go to the next picture.
Ayan. So, bale po, earlier, nakita po natin na that's where Bobby Manyosa got his creative side. He also has a technical side. So, could you please describe this photo po?
Jello.
Okay, this is Manuel Manyosa. So this is my grandfather. He was actually a Harvard graduate, one of the first Filipino engineers to graduate in Harvard. He was a sanitary engineer. He used to run
Manila Waterworks.
Manila
Waterworks.
Yeah, Manila Waterworks, which is during the Japanese time pa, where we're talking World War II. And a lot of stories about my grandfather. During the war, the Japanese wanted to poison key areas in Manila, and they were looking for him because they wanted to know exactly, to poison the water in certain areas. So even my dad had memories of one day an American tank. The Americans came in a tank in San Juan, picked him up, and they said, "Are you Manuel Manyosa? And please come with us." And they loaded him in a tank, and they took him to the mountains of Antipolo to hide him from the Japanese, because they really came looking for him because they wanted to really poison the Americans that were hiding in key areas of the city. But he was also one of the first guys that started putting underground water system in Manila. So Manila never had underground piping.
Okay.
And so he was the one that really started establishing a lot of those underground piping systems. And the water back then was super, super clean. You could drink off the tap. All the water in Manila, you could drink off the tap. Like honestly, my dad would tell me, if your grandfather ever knew that you had to buy water today out of a water bottle, he'd think you were crazy. Because water back then was so good, so clean in Metro Manila. But he was a very serious man. He was very serious. He was very articulate. But he was also very, very strict with all of them. So
okay,
there was
to add lang, Jello, no? So I got this news clippings from Tribune, no, 1940s. So he was featured, no, may sketch pa nga, no. So to have a sketch, no, in a newspaper is a big deal, no, because sinasabi diyan sa article na yun that he was initially part of the Bureau of Public Works, then he transferred to the Bureau of Public Health, then sinasabi na he was really a pioneer, no, in terms of creating the water system for Manila and also Cebu, and in the issues, no, old archival issues of this paper, nakakatuwa rin kasi he also designed pala the chariot, no, used in the 1937 International Eucharistic Congress, no? Yeah. So, meron talagang connection kay Bobby kasi Bobby in the 1980s would design, no, the Pope Mobile, no? Yeah. So, it's a very may parallelism. No?
Yes.
Yeah. My grandfather received a knighthood by Pope. Who was it? Which Pope was that?
Oh wow,
Pius, I think.
Pius.
Pope Pius.
Yeah, Pius.
So he received the knighthood
of Saint Gregory.
Of Saint Gregory, which my dad also received the same knighthood, but under Pope John Paul already. Mm-hmm. And we still have both. When you're given a knighthood, you're given a sword and you're given a silver star and all that. And so we have the one of my grandfather and the one of my father both in one frame.
Together.
Yeah, together. It was actually quite touching for him when Dad got knighted. That my grandfather was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
To see it, yeah. So it was really a touching moment for a father's son.
Yeah.
Yeah, he must have been very proud po.
Yeah.
Actually my grandfather was an ex-seminarian. And that's why he's very close to priests. And they always had priests in their house.
Every Monday, even for us.
Yeah.
Every Monday.
And then even for us.
You'd have the priests. So every Monday night, we'd have priests having dinner in the house.
Yeah.
Okay,
kaya
next picture tayo.
Lalampas na ako sa langit. Pag namatay ako, lalampas ako dyan.
So next picture tayo, I'll show you a picture kung saan nanggaling yung philosophy ni Bobby. No? So this is a picture. No? This is a plan which I got from the Bureau of Public Works manual. No? This is a 1922 plan, no? Signed by your lolo, Manuel Manyosa, as a sanitary engineer. Here, you will see that as early as 1922, he is advocating a vernacular style of architecture. This is actually a modular type of hospital. No? Depende sa funding ng municipality. Lalaki siya, no? Progressive hospital. So here kita natin yung
Pang-COVID yan.
Correct,
Advanced
pang-COVID. No? So ang galing kasi we will see perhaps the early influence, no, of Bobby in advocating Philippine architecture. So
Gerard, I've never actually seen this. I've never seen this.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, so this is from the Philippine Health Service. So I got this from the archives of UP. So
very nice.
Next picture. Ayan.
Alright, so I believe this is a photo of architect Bobby together with yes po. And then on the right is architect Leandro Locsin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So they were classmates in UST and actually seatmates, no?
Mm-mm.
Seatmates because at that time
they would be alphabetical. So it was
yeah.
L, Locsin, then M, Manyosa. So when they were seated alphabetically, they were always seatmates together.
Nakakatuwa din, no? Nag-meet yung career nila also in the 70s, no? One is ultra-modern, one is neo-vernacular. But both of them also, no, had inclination towards music, no?
Yes.
So, di ba? Si Locsin was on the classical.
I'll tell you a nice story that my dad told me before. He and Lindy before used to make pusta in UST, right? So they'd make pusta piso. Of course, 1 peso sounds, back then 1 peso was quite a bit.
Big.
Right? But they would make pusta piso. And the way they would make pusta is with a scale. So they would take a scale and then keep it in their pocket, and then they draw a piece of paper, and then they would say 1:75. Okay? Then they had to draw every 5 meters 1:75. By memory, diba? And then they take the scale and check the closest to hit 1:75 on a 5 meter, yun, panalo. So then they would say, oh, sige, na yun, 1:20. Or what? 7 meters naman, 7 meters. So then with a piece of paper, they draw 7 meters, more or less, and then put the scale and the closest one to it. Yeah, and that's how they would bet. So by memory, they would end up being able to draw to scale without necessarily requiring a scale. So when you're practicing that way, you're actually practicing your dimension without using an actual scale. And when you sketch out your plans freehand, you more or less get the proper scale. So that's how they would bet. They'd really bet like that. And they just, basta you call the scale and then you call the meters and then you'd have to draw.
So ang saya pala ng kanilang pustahan.
Pustahan, parang nerdy pustahan.
So,
and
next
Gerard,
picture.
you were saying that he was, they were both in music, right? So my dad, you mentioned that Tito Lindy was a classicist. My dad was actually a jazz pianist. My dad was a musician by Oído because he wasn't allowed to be a musician. He wanted to be a musician first, but he wasn't allowed. So he wasn't allowed to take piano class. So he would just watch his sisters take piano lessons, and then he'd sit
walang
down
formal training.
Walang formal training.
Si Dad, wala.
Kaya po siguro jazz.
He would go to the music conservatory in UST to watch Lindy play, because Lindy was playing his classics there. And Dad would just listen oído. Pero he would listen and learn because his older sister would take formal piano lessons. And then after
he wasn't allowed.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed to learn. And then after she played, then he would go to the piano and then he would try to copy what she was doing without really knowing what he was doing. But it came to a point where he was actually even playing piano better than her.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Pero he was all oído. So unless you told him, if you gave him notes, he could never read notes.
But you can hum something to him and he'd pick it up right away.
And then he'd
play it in the piano, a guitar, a flute, any instrument. He could pick it up and play.
Yeah.
So ito si no? On the picture you will see his graduation photo, no? He graduated in 1953. Ang pogi ni ni Sir Bobby. So after his graduation, he joined his brothers, no? The trio, no? So titignan natin yung mga works nila, no? So it's a mixed bag, no, of works, no?
Actually, Gerard, if I may say something quickly lang about after his graduation, my grandfather would send their kids, no, where they wanted to go after grad, yung parang a trip somewhere.
Yeah.
And which country? I think the eldest one, Manuel, picked, if I'm not mistaken, Spain, and then the youngest one, Jose, picked the U.S. My dad picked Japan. And that was a very difficult decision, I guess, for him because the war had just finished. No, I mean, it was just 8 years, I think, after. And my grandfather didn't like the Japanese at all. He really, really had this strong, don't like to use the word hate, but almost despised the Japanese because they killed his brother. So my dad's uncle, Jose Manyosa, was actually the captain of the ship of Manuel Quezon. So they killed him. They tortured him. So he was one of those tortured by the Japanese. But luckily, my dad was able to go to Japan. And when my mom asked him, why he picked Japan, considering that his father just really hated everything about it, right? And he said because there's something about their culture that really moved him, that you see their culture in everything that they do. Even if it's something so modern already, the culture is reflected there, whether it be their landscape, a piece of furniture, their architecture, everything very ingrained. So that's what got him really interested, and that's why he went to Japan.
And he took up landscaping in Japan as well. While he was
Really?
Yeah, he was there for a year, and then the funny thing is, he ended up with a Japanese girlfriend, and then my lolo sent him home na. After that, sent him home, asked him to come back.
My grandfather could not even step in a Japanese restaurant.
Yeah, it took a while before we were able to bring him to Kimpura.
He could not even walk in a Japanese restaurant. That's how much he despised.
It's a war trauma, no?
War trauma, exactly. Yeah.
War, diba?
Yeah.
Trauma.
His name is actually there in Intramuros. You'll see his name engraved there. Jose Manyosa.
The brother of the grandfather.
The brother of my grandfather.
Ones that got tortured and got killed in Intramuros. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a picture of Bobby with the firm, no? So the triumvirate, I call him triumvirate, no? By the way, no, naging boss ko si NTM, no? Sa pros, no? Anyway, yun, ang dami, it's a period of experimentation, no? So kasi the 1950s, it's really parang a period, no, kung saan dinidefine natin yung national identity. And for them, iba't iba yung mga pinursu nilang styles, no? Next slide. Ayan. So,
Balara.
ang isa sa unang work nila, no, together was the
Balara filter.
Bakit ba sa Balara? Obviously kasi si lolo niya was the director, no?
Actually, this was as a student pa ata eh. As a student pa when they did this.
But this was completed in 53, no?
Yeah.
So,
he's
as diba ito yung kinreate nila to reimagine, no, a Philippine identity in the aftermath of war. So it's actually nostalgic, no? Nostalgic, but this building has become an icon, no? An icon because pag pumunta ka sa Balara, 'di ba, nung 50s, nag-excursion ka, 'di ba? So, halos lahat na nagbabakasyon, nakikita yung building na yan. At ang daming pelikula na luma, no, ng LVN, nandyan yung lagi yung building na yan. So, it's ingrained in the public consciousness.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Yeah, my grandfather was into public spaces always, for people to come and enjoy.
Tapos the group also designed, no, yung gas station, no? Talagang mixed bag yung kanilang project. So, ESO gas station, but what's unique about this gas station is that merong naga, no? May abstracted na naga sa dulo, no? So, talagang pinipilit nung tatlo na i-pursue yung national identity in architecture. Next slide. Ayan. Where is this? I think this is in Tagaytay, no?
That's Tagaytay.
That's Tagaytay. That's Coconut Grove.
They call it now Picnic Grove.
Ito yung parang
Coconut Grove.
nila yung salakot, no? Salakot as an iconography, no? Next slide.
That structure, I think, still standing today.
Talaga, nandun pa?
Yeah.
So,
nandun.
So the 60s and the 50s was also the age of space, no? Space exploration. So, din sila, nag-space age. So, for example, this gymnasium for San Beda, no? It's as if it's a floating spaceship. Next slide. Ito, kaninong bahay ito?
This is the Arroyo house.
Yeah.
Ignacio
This is the
Arroyo.
Arroyo House. Yeah.
Ignacio. So ito, no, they also experimented, no, with the ability of concrete, no, to be shaped, no, in a variety of sculptural forms. No?
And the cantilever, I think, was the main
Yes,
feature
oo.
here. Yeah.
So
The
talagang
cantilever.
ano, no, talagang ang
This
ano,
house
no,
is
ang,
in,
yung scope, no?
in La Vista.
No?
It still stands there though. It's still,
Talaga?
Yeah.
Akala ko wala.
yeah.
Next
I
slide.
think their inspiration was an abanico.
Really? Abanico. Kaya pala yung
Right.
ano, no, serrated yung roof. Next slide. Ayan.
Sampaguita picture.
Yes. Yes, this is ano, in Sampaguita pictures, no?
Yeah.
So,
this is
Actually,
the
my dad enjoyed those times because that's when he'd make na that's he met Dolphy. My dad loves actors, and I mean he was very fond of things like that, no? And they used to go out with a lot of the young actresses at that time. I think he was in his 20s during this time.
Oh. Go out on dates po? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, group. Yes.
Group date.
Group date, they all go out, they meet them, as your young architects meeting all these actors and actresses.
Maybe that's the influence also po of the mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My
Very
dad
educated.
always he loved entertainment.
Oh, ito Bambi. So it's a clear
Si
manifestation
Jello,
of
San Miguel.
international style, no?
yeah, San Miguel. So
So,
San
San
Miguel was
Miguel.
actually, it was a Manyosa Brothers project.
So nakakatuwa, no, when I saw the a cross section, no. So it was really a path-breaking building because in the late 1970s ito dinesign, tapos natapos ng 1980s. Yung cross section niya meron talagang solar panels at saka pinag-aralan yung wind flow,
Actually,
no?
Yeah.
So many things that people may not know. San Miguel is actually 2 buildings, right? It looks like 1 building, but it's actually 2 buildings. That building is 2 because there's a fault line that runs right in the middle of it. So that building is designed to split. In case of a major earthquake and the tectonic plates move, the building actually splits. And it allows itself to do that through the expansion joints, so that the building doesn't explode into itself. The facade of San Miguel actually has all the plant boxes all around. That's to kind of get kind of that indirect solar radiation coming in. But then as Gerard mentioned, the facade of the building was really designed to put photovoltaic panels. But at the time, photovoltaic, it was a new thing in the late 60s, early 70s. So it was still very expensive. But the idea was that the entire facade would be lined with photovoltaic panels one day, right? And that was the idea on it. And then the Rice Terrace inspiration. Now, the way the Manyosa brothers worked on this was Dad was in charge on the design, development, facade, and all that. The architect Pingoy Manyosa, Jose Manyosa, he was in charge. He was architect on record for the Manyosa for the San Miguel building, and Manny was doing a lot of the space planning, which eventually Manny Manyosa moved, of course, into pros, no? Eventually, pero when they were together, that was kind of the dynamics of how they work. Yeah, Jose Pingoy, his PR was fantastic. He always had really, really great PR, funny guy, and so he was always the best guy to front, and he was the guy that was doing a lot of the relations. So he was parang architect on record for San Miguel. Then Dad was doing a lot of the development on the design.
So actually, I got this photo from the archive of IP Santos, no. So kinikwento ni IP, no, na tama, bagay na bagay daw yung yung form for the San Miguel headquarters building kasi para daw pinagpatong-patong na case ng beer.
Case ng beer.
He was just was
na po ba
joking.
namin,
He was
listeners?
just joking.
You know, for me, San Miguel Building and unfortunately Benguet Center, once upon a time, those two buildings defined that intersection of Ortigas. I thought that intersection was one of the most beautiful intersections in the entire country.
Yeah.
Because of those two
I
buildings.
love that. Yeah.
Those two buildings, and you know, we still have our unit in JMT, which is in the other corner, right? So from JMT building, we would look down and we would see San Miguel and Benguet facing each other.
Yeah.
It was
super nice.
It was a sight. It was really a sight. I mean, ang ganda talaga. And whenever you drove down that intersection, it was such a beautiful, you know, those buildings.
So
really,
merong dialogue dialogue on the cityscape scene,
yeah.
di ba?
the buildings would kind of like talk to each other, you know, and visually. And whenever I think about it, it was such a beautiful sight talaga.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Pains
glad
me that they removed it, actually.
Yeah, Benguet for me was
one of my
kind of
favorite
lost.
buildings.
Yeah, it was an absolute beautiful building. And to this day, whenever I see Andy, I always tell him, "Pare, ang ganda talaga ng Benguet." You know, Benguet was. I mean, those two buildings, the way they interacted with each other, it was really a sight. You know, it was really a sight.
Next photo. Ayan.
Sulo.
Restaurant.
Sulo. It's also an icon, no, in the Makati area.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you know, Sulo, one of the biggest problems that they had, Dad was trying to. This is sila, no?
No, this is the Enriquez.
And
Mr. and
Enriquez
Mrs.
already.
Enriquez. Yeah.
So they were trying to convince them to put this iconic roof. And the roof was actually going to cost, like at that time, close to half the cost of the total project already. And they were saying, Bobby, ang mahal ng roof. And his point was, you have to do the roof because it will define your restaurant. It will define the cuisine and all that. So, and after so much push and pull, they got them to do it. And that roof became such an iconic structure at its time, no? During its time.
At saka maraming naging copycat, no?
Marami din, yeah, marami.
On a small
Maraming
scale,
na-inspire.
no?
Yeah. But you know how Dad used to always tell me, he would say, if people copy your work, take it as a compliment.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, the guy that copies your work will always be second best. That's how he looked at it, no? So he's like, take it as a compliment. Don't feel bad that someone copies your work, right?
Yeah. And then he would say, and then you can design the next one. You think of something else.
Yeah.
So next photo, ayan, si Madam. So
Madam
actually, no,
LRT station.
Bambi, halos associated si Bambi kay Madam, no. Pero hindi lang naman si Imelda Marcos ang naging sponsor, no?
Yes. Actually, you know, my dad just saw all these presidents and first ladies as clients. He had no political affiliation, really. He just really wanted to help the country. And when presidents or first ladies would approach him, he was game to do that. It wasn't because it wasn't anything political, really. Ever since he didn't really choose. So likewise, I think later on you're going to show. I don't know if you have a photo here of the play club, because if you have that, again, that was the same time he was doing something also for the Pope. So when you think about it, he's doing Playboy Club and for the Pope
Sacred
at the same
and
time.
profane.
Yeah, diba? So he really didn't, I mean, he saw everybody as a client. And there was no parang prejudice or whatever on nothing on anyone. No? He just really wanted to please people and get his designs out there.
So you know, Dad in total, he served 7 presidents.
Mm-hmm.
He served from Macapagal, Marcos, Cory, Ramos, GMA, Erap, and Duterte. So he actually served that full range of presidents.
Sa tingin ko, no, mas na-associate kasi siya kay Imelda kasi merong nationalistic project si Imelda, di ba? Isang bansa, isang diwa.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Bobby's aesthetic coincided with that agenda, no? So,
Right,
to
right.
really define Philippine architecture. So,
Yeah,
but the Marcos regime, no, took upon themselves really to define what Philippine architecture is. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, kaya yun ang
during
yun ang
Marcos
result.
time, that's when you get your cultural center was developed. They were really pushing a lot of Filipinism, and that's really where Lindy Locsin came about. George Ramos. Dad. There were a lot of local talents that just all of a sudden shined because there were so many projects that were being pushed. Philippine Art Center. I mean, you name it. All the big projects and big infrastructures really came out. So it was kind of like a golden age of architecture.
So golden age, and at the same time, a period of edifice complex.
Correct. Correct.
Pero just the same, ano siya, no? It's a pinupurso nitong regime na to create iconic buildings because kakabangon lang natin sa digmaan. So we needed some buildings, no, to imagine our nation. So kasi how can you love a nation if you do not have that tangible monuments to anchor your identity?
Right.
Ayun.
And so that's why yung sa LRT, Gerard, originally, he wasn't supposed to be the architect of that. It was either somebody else or just an engineer, and it looked very just typical. No, there was nothing special about it. So it was Imelda that asked them. The other man holding the model with her was I don't know if you called him secretary at that time, Dance. I think he was with transportation. So yeah, Totoy Dan. So she asked him to give my dad a call. To do this station.
But nonetheless, no, Bobby gave us, no, yung binigyan tayo ng opportunity, no, to experience Philippine architecture on an everyday life. So hindi siya necessarily yung architecture na hindi elitista. So nagki-cater din siya sa taong bayan. So na-experience natin every time na sumasakay tayo sa LRT, no? So talagang it cuts across, no? Social stations, yung kanyang architecture.
But remember, Gerard, those LRT stations were done in the 80s, no? We are now, that's over 40, close to 40-year-old stations already.
Ganun na pala tayo katanda.
Yeah, they are way past. They were good for the 80s, right? But today, it doesn't work anymore, right? But it really needs to be changed and upgraded but I think there is something to be the structure that has actually held on for about 40 years despite all technological advancements. But the nice thing about it is you could still make use of the structure and upgrade it to the now, right? And that I think is part of what heritage is all about. But jumping back, I saw a picture of the Playboy Club. I actually have a good story.
Let's move forward kasi we have only 10 minutes to go, sabi ng ating floor director.
Okay. The Playboy Club actually is an interesting one. You have the Playboy Club there? The one of Silahis?
Ayan.
So the Playboy Club, no? Ayan, yung mismong, ayan.
Because I'm sure that madami mga interesado dyan. So the Playboy Club, just a little tidbit, no? The Playboy Club was commissioned to Dad by the Enriquez family. So the Sulo owners, right?
Sulo.
So this guy was B-Boy Enriquez, and they had the most amazing parties, right? And so the Playboy Club in Silahis was placed, and then there was one also in Puerto Azul at the time, right? And I remember going to the opening of the Playboy Azul, Playboy Club, and my brother and I, we must have been about 10 years old, maybe 9 years old. And it was the first time I saw women walking around dressed like bunnies. And I thought it was a pretty amazing sight, right? But here's the thing. Here's the amazing thing. The Playboy Club, and this was told me by B-Boy Enriquez about maybe 9 years ago. He was telling me Hugh Hefner looked at this Playboy Club, and in his words, he said, the Philippine Playboy Club is the most spanking Playboy Club in the world. Playboy Club, I think at the height of Playboy Club, there must have been about close to 800 some Playboy clubs all over the world, right? And every time they were to make a new Playboy club, Hugh Hefner would always say, visit the Philippines. And that became the peg for the standard of what Playboy Club around the world was to follow. And so every single architect of Hugh Hefner that had to do a Playboy Club had to visit the Silahis Playboy Club at the time, because that was the peg. Hugh Hefner looked at it and he said, this is Playboy.
So talaga ang father nyo ay playful, no? So gumawa siya ng spaces of play, no? So
and that's a true story, That's a true story.
Unknown to many, no? Your father is also a toy designer, no? So actually, I got a catalog, Philippine product catalog. So ang isang naka-feature dito is Bobby toy,
so
no? A
nice.
train set, no? So a train set. So this is for export, no? So minamarket yung mga products. So tell us about Bobby toys.
I think Bobby Toys was born out of my dad's very Peter Pan personality. You know, he loved kids. He was, my father and his siblings never really had toys. My grandfather was very good with it. I mean, we have a lot of stories from our uncles and my dad about how kuripot my grandfather was. No, they never got toys, so they actually had to build their own toys. They had to make their own toys out of sticks and stones and found objects. So Bobby Toys became my dad's line of toys. He used to call it Bobby Environmental Toys. So it was all wooden toys for kids, no? And he also ended up doing furniture. And and that's Jello.
Oh,
So
that's
this is
good
from
in the
our
corner.
book.
Ang gwapong bata na yan.
Ayan. So model din kayo ng toys.
Pogi!
And that horse actually won like a good design award by the design from the design center
It was
back
also
then.
the model made the toy.
Yun.
So it was fun. So us three kids and our cousins were actually we used to test the toys for my dad and for my tita. So my dad did this together with my tita, my mom's sister, Medilan Singh. So they used to design toys and furniture.
Alam mo
for
yung
kids.
nakakatuwa dyan, Gerard. Every time Dad would make a new toy, he would use us as the test subject. So he would parang give it to us and then watch the way we would play with it. If we tried to pull it or yank it or turn it, he would study how we would like play with it, and then he would make the adjustments based on how he would see us. And we'd ask him, can we open up the body? Can we move the head? No, you cannot. Okay. No, you like the head? Yeah, it would be nice if the head could move. And then the next time they would give us a toy, the head could move na. So we were parang the test subjects that he would. And so
We were his consultants.
it was fun because we would end up pretty much getting new toys all the time and then playing with it. And then we'd give it back to him, and it would come back a week later, and it was, a better
Something
toy.
else.
So anyway, we're almost running out of time. So pero apart from that, kasi nag-focus tayo sa yung mga hindi nababasa sa libro na aspect ng buhay at creative life ni Bobby Manyosa. Apart from being a toy maker, he's also a musician, no? In fact, nakipag-jamming siya kay King the King of Thailand.
Yeah.
So in 1963 nung nagkaroon ng state beat, tumakas yata yung King of Thailand, no, para makipag-jamming kay Bobby.
Yeah. And he used to belong to a band called the Executives Band. So my dad used to play the piano and also the vibraphone. Actually, was his main instrument there.
And
So this was led by Raul Manglapus.
Yeah, they were not extremely, fabulous musicians, but because of who they were, and it was a good group, they would end up playing with the best of them. They played with Duke Ellington, Bill Clinton. They played for Pope John Paul. They played with,
front act for Frank Sinatra.
You name it. Thailand was there. Bill Clinton played clarinet. So it just so happened that one time we were in the house, and then at 10 o'clock or 10:30, Dad gets a call. He's like, what? Okay. And then my mom's like, where are you going? We have to go to Malacanang. This is during Ramos's time. I said, why? Because apparently, Bill Clinton was doing a state visit. He was in Malacanang, and during the dinner with Ramos and Ming Ramos, he just so happened to mention, I played the clarinet. And Ming says, you have to meet my group. And they had just finished dinner, and they were having a few drinks. And then she says, you know what? I'll call them in. And at 10 o'clock, there was a call from Malacanang, and they said, please come to Malacanang right now for a jam session with Bill Clinton. So all the executives, Raul Manglapos, all of them, they all went to Malacanang, and they jammed, and they played, and Bill Clinton played the clarinet. Yeah, amazing talaga. Out of the blue. Then they came home at like 1 a.m, and he was like, amazing, to play with the President of the United States at the time.
Yeah. And they would play for free, It would be more like fundraisers. They would do fundraisers.
So benefit show. So final slide siguro kasi wala na tayong oras.
Ayun po.
Ayan, of course, we know Bobby as national artist. So apart from that, talagang he is well known, no, in Southeast Asia as one of the proponent of tropical regionalism. So as a national artist, we know that he is the paternal figure of neo-vernacular architecture in the Philippines. So unfortunately, many of his buildings, no, like national artists, di ba, sa batas natin, works of national artists is considered as important cultural properties. Unfortunately, some of his buildings have been modified without consultation, no, with him, no. For example, yung Coconut Palace, no. So yung Coconut Palace. So recently, diba, it was modified, no, to become the office, no, of the vice president. So kinatok ko nga yung doon, no, kinatok ko yung coconut column, no? Hindi na siya coconut. Ano na siya? Fiberglass na siya.
Fiberglass.
So we're looking at the pictures
These are
of the
old
Coconut
photos,
Palace in its heyday, no?
Right. So even the chandelier has changed already.
Ganon.
Used to be coconut. They changed that.
Like all things, I mean, this is a conversation with Andy, many times as well. It's sad that many times it's just we have a lack of appreciation for heritage. I think that pero you know what, I think more and more slowly we're actually becoming a bit more conscious about our local heritage. But many times kasi many get scared kasi when you're under the heritage conservation, it becomes harder to move and fix the building and whatnot, no? So many tend to wait for the 49th year, and then they start the modifications before you hit the 50th year, because the 50th year, it now becomes heritage, right? Pero, I mean, it is what it is. I think Dad, not as much as Lindy. I think Lindy's buildings, there have been more buildings that have been hit and even torn down, which were done by Lindy. And unfortunately, it's a conversation Andy and I have quite often with regards to, how can we help, how can we, save these buildings, of national importance. But
okay, a final word, no. So, anong masasabi natin, no, na greatest legacy ni Sir Bobby? So fortunately, I was able to meet him, no, for the exhibition, no, for the National Museum. So I was lucky, no, to have met him. No? So kayo bilang anak, no, ano yung masasabi nyo, no? Ano yung message nyo sa daddy nyo na gustong marinig ng mga tao?
Message for him?
Oo, halimbawa.
Or about him?
About him. About him.
About him, well, the way we called, remember the exhibit book, monograph, no, Beyond Architecture, because my father, I think, was really, really beyond architecture. He was more, there was more really to him than what people knew out there. His personality was really fun, very fun-loving, and I think that's why a lot of people were drawn to him. He had so much charm. He had so much love for country and for everything local, no? So it wasn't just architecture; it was all the way down to clothing and items, furniture, products, everything. No, he always wanted to help the country look into what was ours, because he kept saying, what is ours is beautiful, and it's just really sad how we keep looking abroad for something. So what we should do is, if we see something beautiful abroad that we wanna bring here, don't lift it and bring it here. Sort of like innovate it and make it our own. So there was more to him than being an architect, really, and I think this is not enough time really to express. But I'd like to tell everyone that we're coming up with his biography. So you'll learn a little bit more about him, and we're launching this on October 24. So, Jello.
Yeah, I think Bambi said it all now. I'll just add to what Bambi said. When it came to the architecture, the side of architecture, it was always a question of, and which is why we also came up with that exhibit. We called it Why Filipino. One thing that Dad did was he never followed trends. When everyone was doing Balinese modern, when people were doing postmodern architecture, he kind of stayed the course. It's like, no, we practice, Philippine architecture for the Filipino. And that was kind of what he would always ingrain in us. And he would say, just stay the course, follow our belief, our core. Because he'd always tell me, nobody's going to help the Filipino but the Filipino. The Americans will never come and help us. They will come, they will seem like they're helping you, but only the Filipino can help. Only the Filipino can help the Filipino. So you'd say, love your country, love who you are, practice architecture, and that's the only way we'll be able to uplift the Bahay Kubo, take it up to an international level where it is accepted by all facets of society. Only then, he says, can I rest and say I have achieved what I've been preaching all my life. And that's kind of what was ingrained in us growing up. I mean, we were bombarded by it every single day, even during our client presentations, every single day. So subconsciously, it's kind of like ingrained in us, and we grew up with that philosophy as well. So we don't follow trends. We really have it in our core value, and we don't practice it because it's a
business or something.
We really practice it because that's the way we practice every single time. So he said it doesn't matter what you do, whether you practice architecture, whether you design a playground, whether you design an ashtray, always look and say, how can you make it Pinoy? How can you adapt it to our culture? And then once you know that, he says, then you know who you are, and let's practice architecture. And that was his message.
Maraming salamat, Jello and Bambi. So, alam
Thank
ko,
you,
no?
Gerard.
Bitin na bitin tayo, no? Marami pa dapat pag-usapan, kaso we're running out of time. Pero nais ko pasalamatan yung Tukod Foundation, no, for allowing us to use some of the photos, no, that we showed, no, in this program. Raya?
Maraming salamat, Gerard.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you po. Ayan. So before we take our last cheers of the night, again, thank you very much to our guests. And thank you also to our dear sponsors, Davies Paints, Koisen, and Sika Philippines. To our viewers, we hope you're still there. Sobrang exciting po nung mga revelations sa ating kwentuhan po for tonight. So remember to comment your favorite drink if you haven't done so already, so that you get the chance to win a power bank. And share this video for a chance to win a wearable air purifier. So Let's just take a short break. Don't go anywhere.
So
We'll be
pero,
right back.
cheers muna.
Ayan. Apo. So, cheers po to our guests.
Cheers to Bobby.
Cheers, cheers.
Cheers,
Maraming
everyone.
salamat.
Cheers.
Thank you very much
Commercial break.
po.
Thank you. And we're back again. Thank you very much for being here with us, Bambi and Jello. Before we say goodbye, we'd like to invite everyone to support Tukod Foundation, whose mission is to empower the youth by creating spaces and events that immerse them in our beautiful Philippine culture. To donate, please visit tukodfoundation.org/donate. Or maybe our guests would like to add to that. Miss Bambi and Jello?
Oh, Jello, you want to say something about
Oh, no, go ahead,
about
go
the
ahead,
book?
go ahead.
Yeah. So we're launching my dad's biography on October 24. Why October 24? It's the anniversary when he received the National Artist Award, and so we to celebrate on the 24th. And we'll be having also a book launch, and we're inviting everybody just to look at the Tukod page. We'll be announcing it there. Thank you.
All right. So everyone, get your copy po once it's out. So again, thank you very much po, Jello and Bambi. We do hope to have you again with us very soon. Okay.
Thank you, Raya.
Thank you all. Maraming
Thank
salamat
you.
po.
All right. So before anything else, coming this November 2021 are 2 volumes of Architect Jared Lico's latest book, Arkitekturang Pilipino, A History of Architecture and the Built Environment in the Philippines. So be sure to get your copy also once they're out. So ang ganda po nito, sir. Can you tell us a little bit something about these books?
So, actually, it took me 2 decades to write this book. And sobrang daming nito, archival photos na ngayon nyo lang makikita. So it's a different history of architecture because it is not a parade of styles, but rather tinitingnan natin dito how history and architecture are intertwined. So tapos we are launching it this year simply because it's the centennial of the architectural profession. So
Yes,
magandang
po.
opportunity ito. So please grab a copy pag available na siya. I believe it will be available through through our favorite online shopping platform.
Yes po. We'll be sure to promote it as well, sir, sa page po namin. So, very timely launch dahil po centennial celebration na po ng architecture in the Philippines. Okay, so thank you very much, Sir Gerard. So now's the moment many of our viewers have been waiting for. It's time to answer a few questions for the chance to win the 2 books that Architect Gerard has generously offered. Ayan, so the first book po is called Croquis, a primer on Philippine architecture. And the second is Manyosa Beyond Architecture. Ayan, so if you're still there, please make sure to answer the following questions. Ayan. So for our first book, Crocus, this is our question. Ayan. Name the park master planned by architect Bobby. There we go. Name the park master planned by architect Bobby Manyosa.
So medyo trivia to, no? So hindi to na-discuss natin, pero yung makakasagot niyan will get a prize.
Oo nga po. So, you made sure, sir, na medyo hirapan po yung question para mas marami po yung medyo makapag-isip po ng konti yung mga viewers natin.
So, di ba remember, sabi ni Bambi, no, na nag-aral ng landscape si
Oh yeah, I
Bobby
didn't
sa
know that,
Japan.
sir. So, that was a very fun fact to know po. Alright, so our next question. So, this is for the Manyosa Beyond Architecture book. Okay, so this question goes, Imelda Marcos was so enamored by the design of the Coconut Palace, especially its coconut trunk columns. She wanted to use it in another building, but was stopped from doing so by Leandro Locsin. So what was this building? Ano po yung building na to that almost had the coconut trunk columns? Do you have anything to add po dito, Sir Gerard?
Napigilan kasi nga, no? Parang nabaduyan yata si Lindy kung lalagyan mo ng Coconut Palace. Ay, yung Coconut Palace, itong palace na to, no?
Ayan. So, make sure to put your answers in the comment section and we'll review it later and post the winners in our Facebook page. Ayan. We're also giving out 3 purifiers for anyone who has shared this video. We're gonna select from the sharers and we're gonna give 3 lucky sharers the 3 purifiers. Ayan. And again, as we've mentioned earlier, we're giving out 5 power banks to those who will comment their favorite drinks. Ayan. So I think may mga nagko-comment. We'll just review those later and select 5 out of them. Ayan. Sir Gerard?
Oh, I hope no, na-enjoy natin, natuto tayo ngayon, no? While
Yes,
we
po.
While we drink our favorite cocktail, no?
Opo.
So,
Ako
kung
po ay
nagustuhan
definitely
nyo, no? Kung nagustuhan nyo yung episode namin, don't forget to like our page, flash on the screen. And you may also post a selfie tonight with #happy with UAPMC.
Yes.
That's #happy with UAPMC.
Opo, ayan. At abangan po ninyo ang susunod na episode ng Happy Hour. Again, we would like to thank our sponsors, Davies Paints, Koisan, and Sika Philippines. And also, the winners of the game will be announced in the UAPMC Facebook page. So, abangan po natin yan. And, check out the UAPMC page. Yan, kasi po, ito po yung pwede nyo mapanalunan. Ayan. Could you show the box again, sir?
Yan, ito.
Ayan. So, kung pwede lang nga po akong sumali, but susali rin po sana ako eh. Para ang ganda po niyang prize.
Bibigyan na lang kita.
Ay, sabi niyo yan, sir,
Okay.
Sige po. Okay. So, napakasaya po ng ating samahan tonight. So, we'll see you again next time. Again, this is Reza Mudio, your BOD Kakwentuhan.
And I am Gerard Lico, your host for tonight. See you in the next episode of ARQUIVIVO Happy Hour. Cheers, everyone.
All right. Cheers.